Northeast tomorrow, Laura. I think it's pretty much etched in stone that we do have a storm coming. There's going to be heavy wet snow, there's going to be rain, and there's going to be coastal flooding.
And this is pretty typical with these areas of low pressure. And the same thing happens with these Midwestern lows as well when they come up from the southern plains. It's the difference of 25 to 50 miles can really change the outcome of the storm in some locations. But we have our own Reed Timmer who is en route to southern New England. In fact, Reed, tomorrow morning, your goal location is somewhere along the Massachusetts shoreline near Scituate. And you're going to be covering all aspects of this storm, from the coastal flooding to the heavy snow.
Certainly, and it does look like the coastal flooding is not going to be nearly as bad as the last nor'easter, but you still never know with these systems. If they ramp up quicker than forecast, that coastal flooding can be much worse. But my plan is to start on the coast and follow it until high tide, which will happen around late morning. That's when the worst chances for coastal flooding could happen. And then I'll head inland toward that very heavy snow band, which could set up from Worcester up through Fitchburg, maybe just inland a little bit from Boston. There could even be amounts that approach 2 feet in that higher terrain. It is possible, though, if that exact track is a little bit offshore, that the coastal areas could also get hammered. I do know one thing: wherever I set up tomorrow morning at this time, you'll likely see 2 to 3 inch per hour snowfall rates in my live shot.
And Reed, when you're traveling, I would assume that you've been through many of these northeastern storms, nor'easters. What's the most difficult part of driving through these storms? Is it the snow-covered roads? Is it the reduced visibility, or a little bit of both?
Well, I've chased a bunch of snowstorms and have driven through 3, 4, 5 inch per hour snowfall rates. That's always challenging because you get those whiteout conditions and you can't see anything in front of the vehicle, and you obviously can't drive safe if you can't see. But I am a little bit intimidated of chasing these coastal storms. They're coastal. The tidal surge can be very dangerous, and I'm not as familiar with chasing these nor'easters when you get those hurricane-like storm surges. So I don't want to find myself in a place like Scituate at high tide when those waters are coming in. That can easily turn into a life-threatening situation. And chasing a nor'easter, you have to deal with all facets of those conditions, not only the heavy snow, the whiteout conditions, also the wind. It can gust very, like the last system, you had winds gusting over hurricane force, which was insane. You're not going to get that with this system, but you are going to get very heavy snow in areas that didn't get it with the last cyclone.
It certainly is going to be a powerful early March storm. Thanks, Reed. We're going to keep up to date with you as we head through not only the rest of today, but certainly the next few days. And you can see that storm, right? Here's where it is. We've got our area of low pressure. We've got our cold front right back to the south, in fact, all the way almost to the Gulf of Mexico. And what's going to happen is our area of low pressure is going to form as we get this upper level piece of energy to drop to the southeast. So by the time we make it into late tonight, we've got an area of low pressure developing along the coast. Then that's going to move its way to the northeast. And I just wanted to talk about some of these ingredients that are going to come together. We're, of course, going to have some pretty significant travel delays as this area of low pressure develops and moves to the northeast. Reed was mentioning the coastal flooding, especially at times of high tide. Also, very strong winds. Those snowfall rates in the heaviest bands of 1 to 2 inches per hour could be a little bit higher than that in some spots as well. Look at the total snowfall expected along the 95 in some places, in some cases just to the west. Totals here 6 to as much as 12 inches of snow. And as we zoom in a little bit, Philadelphia, you could see that 6 to 12 inches of snow. The area around Scranton, we're going to see significant snowfall here this morning. It's all about the sunshine, but tomorrow at this time, there'll be a blanket of white on the ground. Once we get into the New York City area, 6 to 12 inches here. Lower amounts as we look to the east. And again, this area across Long Island is where the exact track of that low is key, because 25 miles farther to the east, that forecast changes a little. 25 miles back to the west, and we could see that axis of heaviest snow pushing its way around just a little bit as well. And then, just as Reed was mentioning, perhaps the heaviest of the snow just west of Boston, Fitchburg toward Worcester and Bernie. Certainly, this is going to be a storm where it impacts many courses of travel as well.
And Laura, you could already see on the radar that bulging of the precipitation that runs north. I think that's that storm that is now starting to get underway.
And it will just become more and more intense over the next 24 hours.
Yeah, in fact, I want to zoom on into this area of rain across the upstate of South Carolina and North Carolina, because I think this is where the storm is beginning to form here. Wet around Charlotte, not in Raleigh yet, but in the upstate of South Carolina around Clemson. You can see the gray skies. They're going to have rain as we go throughout the day. Let me show you Futurecast. We'll watch this area continue to move east. We're going to dry things out Atlanta toward Jackson, but you can see that precipitation bulging north across the Carolinas. And that's why it's going to be a wet day in Raleigh, certainly in Charlotte. But boy, once you get back toward Atlanta on west, we'll dry things out this afternoon in Dallas. Sunshine, a beautiful afternoon with a high near 70.
We have Reed Timmer, who's following this storm. Also our own Jonathan Petramala. He's on his way to New York City right now.
All right, storm coverage all day. Stay with the Accu Weather Network.